What a shame to see my own people being used as a narrative device. What's up, guys? That guy with a no, please, pencil here. Fun fact: I do to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. Say another fun fact. We gotta talk about what's gonna get down dastardly, devious, and dirty in the match between Nigeria and Japan in the U20, aka the first match of the group stage for the U20 World Cup arc. So let's not waste any more time and let me start this 10-minute timer. Please work with me. Yeah, 10 minutes. So, obviously, I'm in the common camp that Nigeria is going to lose. Now, I'm also in the slightly more uncommon now, but still I'd say relatively common camp that Nigeria is going to lose pretty darn badly. And let me talk about why, because I've seen people hoping and hoping for Nigeria, hoping they're going to put up a good fight, but there are a couple things that I feel like build into the reason why narratively Nigeria has to lose, and they have to lose pretty badly. First things first, let's remember what this match is. This is the setup, the basis, the origin for the new Gen 11. And by new Gen 11, I mean the new Blue Lock 11. Essentially, this whole match exists to flex these characters and show off why they are actually going to be a threat on the world stage. And ultimately, I don't think they can prove themselves a threat on the world stage if they just, win a little bit. Or win by a close game. No, I think they need to blow Nigeria's back out. And notably, I'm Nigerian, so it hurts me to say this with every fiber of my being, but I do think they need to blow their back out. Mainly because I think every other match going forward is going to be super high level, crazy intense. The only other match that I can see being an easy stomp on either side is the next match after this one being France. But that's also a reason why I think Japan sort of needs to blow Nigeria's back out. First things first, obviously, we have the team set up and of itself being new, fresh, with different players that were from the original 11, and also the fact that our cast has gotten a bunch of amps to the new English League that all need to be shown off. And then, of course, we have the off-screen training that they did that also needs to be shown off. All that seems to be setting up for the idea that Japan is really, really strong. And notably, the first chapter of the match actually feeds into this in a certain way, by a lot of our cast seemingly being rather blasé, rather relaxed. We have 6 Metavisions. Yes, 6 Metavision users on the field. Not a single one of them activated it throughout this entire encounter. The only person who activates Metavision is a certain demonic hero king at the very end, and he activates it only to say he's transcended Nigeria already off this one play. Once again, I do think this kind of needs to be a blowout, not only for the fact that we need to set up the entire new Blue Lock 11 as a threat and probably even more players, because I do think other players are going to be relevant in this match, not just the initial starting 11, but I also think it needs to act as a strong parallel for the next match, where I could definitely see a certain team getting their that's going to sound real bad, but a certain team getting their back blown out by the other team, and yeah, I think France is going to curb stomp Japan. I think it kind of just needs to happen. I'm also in that common camp where I think these two things need to occur. They need to be like mirror events, essentially. So I think Japan needs to blow out Nigeria to once again show off that they are top tier, top dogs. They actually are genuine threats in this tournament. This is Blue Lock proving themselves and proving their training to us as readers, and obviously in narrative. And number 2, it's proven to the entire world that they're a threat, both to the characters in universe and to the other teams. But at the same time, it's going to act as a flip to show that they still have a long way to go, a whole lot of progression to do when France comes over, bends them over, and just spreads them wide open. So ultimately, that's why I think number 1, Nigeria's going to lose, and they're going to lose badly. How badly? I'm smelling a solid maybe 5-2. Maybe even 6-2. I think we're going to get a lot of show off from a bunch of different characters in this match. Obviously, for who I think is going to be the main players of this match, for Nigeria, naturally, it's going to be Onazi. It's going to be Onazi. Don't get me wrong, I do think the other characters are going to be somewhat relevant. I think the reason there's going to be a 5-2 game and not a 5-1 game, or a 6-2 game and not a 6-1 game, is mainly because I think Onazi is going to score a goal, but I think that's all he's going to get in this match. I think it's going to be on the heels of someone like maybe, I don't know, Kuso, or maybe even Obuabana if we're feeling extra fancy, or Bello, to have to step up. Because the other thing about this game, and the reason why I don't think these guys are going to be too relevant as characters, is not only because they don't have last names, and obviously they need to lose, but on top of that, I think it is set up that Nigeria is meant to be a sort of failed Blue Lock in a sense, where they put too much faith in one man and one striker to do literally anything and everything. Sort of kind of meta-narratively addressing the complaints that a lot of people had about the new English League, where it felt like the strikers, aka Kaiser and Isagi and even Baro at times, and Rin at times, and yeah, I'd say Butcher at times too, and even a little bit of Shigiri, they were the strikers, but they were doing everything. They were attacking, they were facilitating, they were defending, they were doing everything, but ultimately, to certain degrees, not only is that not entirely true in the new English League, even if it is very arguably true in the new English League, but also, now that's not the case the reason I say Nigeria is supposed to be like a failed Blue Lock is because, notably, Blue Lock is about creating the #1 striker in the world. But how's that striker supposed to function? And what would make someone like Isagi incapable of being the #1 striker when he doesn't have the best stats, when he's not the tallest, he's not the strongest, he's not the fastest, he doesn't have any of that? It's because of his ability to raise the ceiling, raise the floor, and bring everyone up with him and make everyone else better. Meanwhile, Onazi simply acts as a floor raiser in of his own. He's the only star player. He's the only one who's relevant. He's the one who picks up the slack for anybody and everybody instead of bringing out the best of everybody and anybody. Now, notably, I saw someone bring up a very interesting West African concept that I had known about but didn't click with me in the last review, the idea of this leading star, essentially the older brother figure that everyone else sort of needs to follow, and literally follow in this case. And ultimately Onazi taking over and taking care of everything is actually fitting into Nigerian culture, which I do actually agree to a certain degree. I even know it's prevalent in my own family in certain degrees. However, there's a slight difference from how my family has it and how it's being portrayed in this manga, if we're going with the idea of that being the main parallel. In my family, you were supposed to chase and try and surpass the rising star, or essentially the eldest who's doing really, really well. They're the standard to meet and surpass, not just a standard to lag behind. And notably, it seems like the crew is lagging behind. While Bello and Kuso and Obo Abana seem to be doing their best just isn't good enough. Onazi is their sole carry, and I think that's the whole story of Nigeria versus Japan in a nutshell, right? Where ultimately Japan is just a much more complete team where everyone is bringing their best and bringing the best out of each other. Meanwhile, Nigeria is just hard relying on Onazi, and Onazi can only do so much. That's why I think in the first half it's going to be essentially an Isagi and Rin masterclass, where they're going to go absolutely crazy, both score a goal each, both sort of dominate the match in all these different ways and forms, and the defense is going to be way too solid. Onazi's only going to barely be able to squeeze in one singular goal, and he's going to be drained, he's going to be tired, he's going to be done. And ultimately, the rest of the team is going to realize, wait a second, we need to step up our game. We need to facilitate where he cannot. We got to be able to help him out. We got to be able to copy what Blue Lock's able to do and do it in our own way. And a very similar story to what happened to the initial U20 match when it was Japan versus the Blue Lock 11 the first time, where ultimately it was Blue Lock going absolutely buku bonkers in the first half, and then Japan kind of being buns. And now it's Nigeria being buns, and then Japan cooking in the first half, but the difference between this and the U20 match is I still think Japan is going to cook in the second half. However, because of how good it's doing in the first half, I think we're going to get different strikers in. Because that's how a lot of people get really, really mad about who's on the bench and who's out in the field. And I do see a lot of people hunting for certain parallels that would be very interesting to see, especially with Onazi sort of being classified as this guiding light. He who leads forth in everything. A king of light, if you will. And obviously, a lot of people want to see a certain king of darkness coming in parallel. I think that's what the second half is going to be. While I see Nigeria leveling up and understanding that they are failing in a sense to reach that leading light, reach that guiding star that is Onazi, and not supporting him properly, I also see Japan being like, well, guess what, Buckaroo? This is not at all our limit, and sending in some of the Dark Kings, aka sending in a Shido, sending in a Bara, sending in a Kunigami. That's why I'm leaning towards something of a 6-2, a 5-2. I could see Nigeria getting close. Real close. Like, they do something that's crazy and evolves, but ultimately Japan, through its never-ending adaptation, its never-ending development, does manage to come in, understand exactly what they're doing, and break it down just like that. So, even if it isn't something like Isagi breaking it down, or Ren breaking it down, or someone breaking it down, I think it's going to be a Baro coming in and devouring the light that is Onazi, and the light he tries to bring to his entire team, even the new light that is born of them realizing that they cannot rely solely on Onazi because they're getting the backs blown out. So who do I think is going to score? If it's a 5-2, I'm smelling an Onazi score, probably a Kuso score for Nigeria, that's it. And then for Japan, I'm sensing an Isagi goal, a Rin goal, a Baro goal, a Shido goal, and possibly another Isagi or Rin goal. Once again, I do think the reason it would either be a 5-2 or 6-2 is I think both of our main strikers, aka Isagi and Rin, kind of need to get multiple goals. Because notably, they're sort of still competing for who is the true head of Blue Lock, whether it be the heroic demon king or the villainous monster of destruction. So I think them getting multiple goals would be fine, but at the same time, that would require them either scoring multiple times in the first half, according to how I'm picturing the narrative going, or one in the second half, one in the first half. I don't know. I'm kind of 50-50. I want a lot of strikers to get the show off here because I ultimately think France is going to be a blowout and England's going to be really, really tight. Possibly a high-scoring goal, game where essentially both sides are pushed to their limits, but England is a story that's way down the line that I don't want to go too far into now until I see how Nigeria plays out, and especially how I see a little bit of France playing out. But with that being the case, those are kind of my thoughts on Nigeria versus Japan. I feel like it needs to be a blowout to better juxtapose France's inverse blowout on Blue Lock. I think it's going to be a nice parallel to the U20 match, and ultimately showing how Blue Lock is even better than then and way differently evolved. I think it's going to be a good way to show off not just the initial starting 11 of Blue Lock, but also some of the bench depth. I think it's going to be a fantastic story of showing how Nigeria needs to evolve and has potential to grow and evolve with its cast already, but at the same time, they simply aren't ready for the world stage in the same way that Japan prepared for the world stage. And I think it's all going to be a story sort of about what does it mean to be the hero? What does it mean to be number one, the guiding light? And whether or not it's a good thing to rely entirely on your guiding light or have a guiding light that drags everybody else up with them and not leaving anyone behind, sort of reinforcing Isagi as the number one striker in the world in a certain way, shape, and or form. And unfortunately, with that, I am out of time. So if you made it all the way to the end of this video, please do me a favor and leave... I don't want to say, like, my brain is like, do a blowout joke, do a back blowout joke, but I don't want to do a back blowout joke. I just don't, man, I just don't accept it. But if you're always in this video, please leave no more light. Leave no more light in the comment section down below. I want to thank you so much for watching. Please don't be afraid to drop who you think is going to score. Whether you think if it's going to be a blowout at all, or if you completely disagree with me being a blowout. Leave any sort of thoughts, all that in the comment section down below. But now, thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure that notifications will not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, even have a Patreon down below, you support me for as well as one the things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. Also, now become a member of the channel for as well as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some perks include the live reactions, so if this series I have to review, ad variations of all my videos, and if you become a $12 Patreon or $12 member, you can order whatever video you want. Also the link to my cover in the description down below, where you drop 5 means a short video, 20 means a long video, or any means at all. Any support is always greatly appreciated. Now, I'd like to thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is that guy with the pencil, writing off. I would like to give a thank you to our sketch tier members: Eternal Flame, Rebel 4765, Astro, Glacier XZ, Zara, Brandon Payne, J2MA, Guillaume, Buddha Uda, Alex Kenny, Enzo, Plant Crone, G Prosper, Swift Strike, Strikeman, and Autumn Mornings Lazo, Cree Panem, Super Flame Zero, Yuki Ally, and Azo2404. Then I'd like to give a thank you to our line art tier patrons: Sean, Midnight Lord 21, Kevin Encarnacion, Dread Zoen, A+A, and Victor Raji. And then I'd like to give a thank you to our Ink tier members: Austin Wimberly, Auchia, and Shrimpo the Shrimp. With a long, juicy, thick, hefty thank you to our digital art tier members: J Warrior and AZ Void. And I'd like to give a thank you to our colored art tier patrons: Joaquin Munoz and Joaquin Munoz. With a final Ganshuin legendary super grumdeliumptious thank you to our glorious, legendary, handsome, costume glazing king, Calvin Elder.